How can building fitness and strength help us with our horses? And how often do we prioritise our horses' health or their exercise regime before we even begin to think about our own? Well, Nikki Taylor, aka Nikki T Fitness, is a coach in the Cornish countryside on a mission to help women move, fuel and respect their body. Nikki has her very own app with strength, mobility and conditioning classes, but for us humans, not for our horses. She helps the equestrian community keep fit and focused whilst juggling the demands of our busy country lifestyles. So if you're struggling to schedule time for your own self-care around your horses, work, family and pets, and you can't find the momentum or motivation to get started, this episode is for you. How can keeping fit help our mindset, our relationships, the management of our horses on the ground, and our performance in the saddle? Let's find out, shall we? Nikki, welcome to Curious Equestrian.
Hello, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much for joining us. Now, many of those listening and watching will know you from popping up in Tina and Em's video, so Life on the Left Rein and EMD eventing. And many others like me will know you for keeping us going during the pandemic and hosting equestrian workouts and giving us that sense of community and social interaction and a way to keep fit in lockdown. What was that time like for you?
Oh, lockdown was a funny old time because I think at the time it was a bit awkward to kind of say that you were like enjoying yourself because so many people were having a really rough time of it, weren't they? But looking back, I think maybe I should have owned having a good time a bit more because actually I was, like you said, putting something on for people to escape, to work on themselves, to look after themselves. So actually looking back, I wish I'd owned it a little bit more because at that point, my business was growing. I'd moved online, which is what I'd wanted to do anyway. And it really, I suppose, and again, like a lot to thank, Tina and Emily for, they managed to open an audience up to me that I didn't even know was out there, to be honest with you. And it brought in lots of people that were horsey, country loving, like they all had in their like Zoom backgrounds, it would be like they either had like beautiful countryside and like green grass behind them, some like spaniel or Jack Russell trying to like put a stone underneath their body being like, come on mum, like take the stone, just throw the stone for me. Or, I think you had your chickens, you said,
I had
didn't
my
you?
chickens
Something like that.
wandering around in the grass behind me.
I love it. And I think that's the thing is the fitness industry, I suppose, is quite, it could be quite dry sometimes, can't it? And that's just not me. So to have those people come into my world and me be able to help them was the perfect opportunity. And it was lovely. And I made lots of new connections. So yeah, it was a really special time for me.
And what inspired you, Nikki, to specialise in equestrian fitness?
Well, I think it all just it just came about. And I mean, I don't just work with equestrians in particular. I work with a vast range of different women, different ages, different abilities, you name it, I'm there. But one thing that they do all hold in common, I think, really is they appreciate like country life, animals. And then a lot of them, obviously, are horsey, whether they are people that are out eventing as many weekends as they possibly can fit in a year, all the way down to people that just literally want to do good by their horse, keep fit for them, or even people that are kind of like thinking, I want to be able to do this hobby for the foreseeable. I want to do it into my 80s. And I love that. And I think that it's always been attractive to me to train that kind of person that isn't just working out for what they see in the mirror. It's often the bigger picture. But then saying that, I do also find that there's a lot of equestrians out there that are quite hard on themselves in terms of their appearance and what they look like. And I think that's been a nice thing to be able to help with as well, is kind of bring their confidence up. If you're fit and you're confident and you're empowered on the ground, you're going to be that on the horse as well. And that's something that I've massively noticed. So yeah, I hope that answered your question.
It definitely did. And that's the thing, there's so many aspects to country life, to owning animals and horses. We've all got busy lives. We've all got 100 lists on the jobs list every day to get done. We've got to juggle work. And somehow we also have to fit in keeping fit and healthy as well. And I was wondering, Nikki, if you could run us through why it is so helpful to not only be active to be a horse owner, but also to actually be physically fit. How can that help us with our horses?
I think, like you said, a lot of the time, let's face it, there's a lot of characters in the horsey world which are like chasing their tail all the time, going around like headless chickens, because there's a lot on, especially if you're adding families into the mix, other animals. You know, my sister, for example, she's got 4 horses. 2 of them, one of them's retired, one of them can't be ridden, one of them can be ridden and is often ridden, and the other one has had like its eye out recently. And I understand like the stress that comes with it all, and managing a business and managing a child and all of the things in between. And I think that it's very easy to put yourself at the bottom of the pile. And I think even more so when I come across people that have animals and things like that. It's always the case. They're always at the bottom of the pile, confidence kind of on the floor, because they're not putting themselves first. Like, there's no self-respect there. So I always just think, if there's no self-respect, how do you hold yourself when you're riding, if that's the case? A lot of the time I think people say, oh, it's the only time I do feel confident is when I'm on board my horse. But I'm saying, what about if you were fitter and stronger because you were doing, even if it was like 2 20-minute workouts a week, just working on that strength, working on that mobility? It doesn't have to be a lot. I don't know, it's cheesy, but something is always better than nothing. And like I often say, like, there's 52 weeks in a year. If you worked out once a week, that's 52 weeks of the year that you're working out. That's 52 workouts. That's not something to just kind of go, oh, it's not worth it, is it? 52 workouts, like, that's loads. So I think that's what people need to maybe think, is that imperfect action creates results, and those results will bring confidence, make you feel empowered, hopefully make your performance better in that sport. I mean, it's the only sport a lot of the time where people don't look after their own fitness. It's always about the horse's fitness. Well, what about us, you know?
That is
So
so
yeah,
interesting, isn't it? I was thinking earlier as well, because it is about often our horse's strength and what they can carry. People of all shapes and sizes can take part in horse riding as long as the horse is suited to the rider, which is absolutely fantastic. But isn't it so true that we focus our attention as to whether our horse is lame or whether our horse is muscular, and we say, oh, look at their lovely, someone said to me once, oh, look at your lovely horse's bum. She's got a Beyonce bum. That's what we all want. And isn't it interesting that the focus goes to the horse? But actually, what can we do to make our horse's life easier carrying us on their backs? And how much of a difference does it make, Nikki, if we're working on our core, on our balance, on our fitness in the saddle?
Yeah, so I think that I find that equestrian fitness tends to like fall into this category that people think it has to be equestrian based fitness. But it doesn't really, because when you think about it, if you're not doing anything in the way of exercise and fitness towards that part of your life, I think people overthink it and they're trying to like categorize it and think, oh, I've got to be balancing on this wobbly surface and doing this, that, and the other. And your best physios and everything will tell you that that's not the case. Actually, just having a good baseline of strength is the most important thing. Mobility is also a huge thing. So we want strong and mobile bodies, first of all. If we've got that, then we can start looking into the more like specific things. Okay, I'm a strong and mobile person, and I might, not me personally, but this person might sit really well on a horse. But then there might be some certain little things during a schooling session that an instructor picks out to you. And that is when you can maybe go, all right, I'm going to take that piece of information and I'm going to go away and I'm going to work on that. But I think so much of the time people get really caught up in it having to be this super specific way of exercising. It doesn't at all. We want to be lifting weights. We want to be making sure we're getting that strength training in, because that is so important for us, for anybody, like for bone health, for muscle density. They are so important. And then our mobility as well. Obviously, we want to be strong and mobile to ultimately move well, get old, be able to carry on riding forever. And I think, I keep going off track. This is me to a T. I just will go.
No, that's great. We want you to go off track and to go off on tangents.
Yeah, definitely strong and mobile. And then I always say to majority of people, like when it comes to your cardiovascular fitness, I think sometimes again people go down this rabbit hole as if they need to be like uber fit to be, if you're putting in the hours doing all the things that a person that lives in the countryside and has to muck out their horses or what every day, you probably don't have a very bad cardiovascular fitness base as it is. We can add some bits and pieces onto that if you wanted to, but let's not be fannying around with HIIT workouts every single day to try and get stronger and fitter. No, we want to be lifting weights, building our strength, and keeping mobile. And they would always be my top priority for anybody that came into my world, to be honest.
And you were mentioning that clients say to you, I want to be riding and working my horses and living with horses into my 80s. And I know, Nikki, that you always can't predict someone's future and how fitness will pan out over the years. But what would lay the great foundations for that, to be able to be fit and active and able to look after horses into the older years?
Yeah, so strength training is just, I just can't emphasize how important it is for everybody. But women in particular, we go through perimenopause and menopause. And after that, we lose muscle and we lose it quite fast. And that's why when we get into old age, we begin to become feral? No.
We might do. I hope
Not
I'm
feral.
quite feral as an old woman.
I hope I will be. Frail is what I was meant to say.
Feral and frail.
But hey, let's be strong and feral instead of frail.
Yes,
Okay.
yes.
And yeah, we don't want to be getting to that frail stage, and we don't want to have those brittle bones. There's like a crazy figure, which is quite sad to think about. But if we're getting older and we've got these brittle bones and we fall over and break our hip when we're older, the chances I think of like living for another 5 years is really low, because you are at that point, you are resting, healing, you're losing even more muscle mass, you're losing even more bone density, and then your independence is taken away. And that's when things start to really catch up with us. And I know it's a really sad like thing to say, but it's true. And I think it's motivating for me, because I want to be able to strength train, keep nice and mobile, so that I do keep doing all the things in life. I'm not, when I'm getting older, avoiding doing certain things, because I can get stuck in. I've got strong muscles. I've got really good bone density. And if we can keep our strength training up, that's what's going to encourage that. We need to prioritize our muscle mass and our bone density, and strength training is the key thing there.
So, Nikki, today, if we want to start, if someone's thinking, I've actually neglected my fitness, I'm, always looking after my horse, but I've neglected my own fitness and care, what can they do today to start strength training? Because that as a concept sounds quite overwhelming, doesn't it, to someone who isn't in the gym every week?
So first things first, forget the gym membership. Forget all of those really overwhelming things. We don't need to be hitting the gym 5 days a week right now. If that's not what you're doing currently, you might be a full-on, fully fledged gym bunny, and go you. But it's not necessary. And if you are somebody that's not exercising, not strength training, never even picked up a set of dumbbells, that's fine. And we're going to start small and we're going to build up very, very gradually. And it could literally look like 20 minutes of strength training once a week for the next month. Set that as your little goal for a second. Using those dumbbells that are in the bottom of your wardrobe all dusty. Then maybe month 2, we could look at adding another session, because you've been consistent with that one session a week. And now it doesn't seem so daunting. You're kind of getting into a routine. And sometimes having a program to follow is really helpful, because what we want to think about is that we always want to be aiming for that little bit of progress. And if we can be progressing month on month, week on week, year on year, you're going to be picking up heavier weights. Your muscles are obviously going to grow. Like I keep going on about, your bone density is going to be better. So we want to just think gradual, gentle steps make going forwards. If we overwhelm ourselves and buy that gym membership and sign ourselves up for 12 months because we're going to do it, and then it's like, oh, I haven't done this week, or you've done 2 weeks solidly, and then you're knackered and you're trying to juggle everything else in life, and you're getting back in the dark because it's now the winter, it's just going to really play on you and be so heavy on your shoulders. So just small steps. They will be, like I said earlier, imperfect action makes results. Like that, I will say that until the cows come home, because It's massively true. And all my clients that have come to me where they're stuck, they are feeling really vulnerable in, oh, nothing I do sticks. I just can't seem to keep up with a routine of anything. And they feel like such a failure because every time they've gone in to do something, they're like, oh, I gave up. But if we can start off with something that's realistic and sustainable in your life, that's going to be better than keeping on skipping it for the next 6 months again, isn't it? Oh, there's another 6 months gone and another 6 months gone. Start now. Like I said, 52 workouts in 1 year. That's better than nothing, isn't it?
And you'll soon be
So yeah,
throwing
that's
those
where I'd
hay
start.
bales in the barn, and those buckets of water will just be flying over your head. You'll be so strong.
Exactly. And like I said, yeah, following a program is a really good idea because you want to be progressing week on week and adding some repetitions, adding some a little bit of extra weight, adding pauses. All things are probably quite like hard to get into during a just, a podcast, one podcast for however long. But and I'm going to sound like shamelessly plugging now, but something like, and it doesn't have to be my app, it could be anybody that seems logical and sensible. Let's put that one down because there's a few people that aren't that in the fitness industry. That you want to be following a program that is, it's I've got one, for example, that's 2 days a week, and the workouts that I've made are under half an hour. So it could be that you are hitting your good compound movements from home. Compound movements are like squats and lunges and chest presses and bent over rows and all things that you might have heard of or you may never have heard of. But I'm there to explain how you do it. I have examples, and it's very welcoming and simple for a beginner to come into and kind of gain confidence in it. And I know I'm shamelessly plugging, but
No, and
I believe in what I've written, and I think it's
exactly.
a good space to join, to learn and gain knowledge, and not just come out the other side of something being like, yeah, well, did that. Don't know what I'm doing now.
And Nikki, we want you to talk about what you do because I can attest you bring so much fun and joy to your workouts. And also what's great is you guide us all and make sure that we're, using the correct form. So it's all very well everyone getting their weights out and starting to, squat and do different, leg presses or whatever. But actually, if you've got the wrong form, you're going to do yourself a damage. And I think that's what I always worry about. If I'm left to my own devices and I haven't got someone to go, actually, straighten your back up, push your shoulders, actually go to this point, I don't know what I'm going to, what kind of havoc I'm going to wreak on my body. And you do that, but in a really fun and, as you say, welcoming way, because I've been a part of
Oh,
your
thank you.
workout. So if anyone is interested, do check out Nikki's app. And what would you say, Nikki, to those who have got that slice of time in their day, but they are busy
Mhm,
working? We've got our horses. The days are about to
mhm.
get a lot darker and shorter quite quickly, which is always really hard, particularly for equestrians, where we're up at the crack of dawn, we're mucking out. It's tiring work. How can we
Yeah.
motivate ourselves in the depths of the dark of autumn and winter?
It's the golden question, isn't it? It really is. I will always say, and I think it's not necessarily the answer that people want to hear because I get asked so much, how do you stay motivated? And I'm like, and I know that everyone says this, but like I really don't. Like, and I think that it's less about motivation. Like we need to park motivation to the side because motivation is it's very rare that it's going to get you to turn up for your workout. And it sounds so how can I put it, like male fitness influencer. Do you know what I mean? It sounds really like buff. But it is discipline that will get you there because you've got to think about what's your priorities. Do you want to be another 6 months down the line thinking, for goodness sake, I'm still no better, feeling better in my body. I don't feel like the summer coming of eventing is what changes have I made? And it's like that rut that like, are you prepared to still be there in 6 months, in a year or whatever? Or actually, do you really want to start working on yourself with just 20 minutes a week or 2 times 20 minutes a week? Or it could be more. Who knows what you'll be able to commit to eventually? But I think it's not the motivation that's going to ever get you there. Exercise creates motivation every time. Like I will wake up and think, oh, for goodness sake. Oh God, I've got to go and do that. Like I'm a PT. I do this for a living. It doesn't mean I want to go and move my body. It's uncomfortable sometimes. Nobody wants to do that. But it's I get there, and my not my motivation, let's not call it motivation. My reasoning for being there is because it's important to me. It's really one of my biggest priorities. I want to be a fit, healthy human, be able to do this for a long, long, long time. And the other thing is, I want to feel good up here. I want to feel good in my head for the rest of the day. And I can 99% of the time say that I feel so much better once I've moved my body. And then that has just this huge wave on the rest of the day. I always feel good when do you know what? Today I didn't work out this morning because I was really tired. I'm due on, and I was like, do you know what? I'm not going to do it this morning. I'm going to prioritize it later. Oh, why did I do that? I feel like even now sitting here in this podcast, and I'll just be completely honest, I could be better in this podcast. I'm not saying I'm not being okay on this podcast, but what I mean is that I think I could have come here with even more energy, even more information, because I would have had a clearer head. Would be less foggy. I just cannot get across to you how much you want to ditch the motivation. That is just, no, park it. It's not a good idea to focus on. You want to turn up for yourself in your living room, in your pajamas, pick up those weights. Doesn't matter what you look like, doesn't matter, if it's 20 minutes or an hour. It's the getting there because you know what your priorities are, you want that thing, and you are prepared to work towards it. And obviously reap the benefits afterwards because you feel so good. You feel so good.
It's a great feeling. I mean, so often, it's so interesting what you say, because when I was younger, I used to genuinely go to the gym feeling quite pumped and motivated and full of energy and excited for the sort of transformation that I'll eventually see if I put the hard work in. And now, with the demands of a career and, lots and lots of rescue animals and horses, and I do sort of end up dragging myself at the end of the day. I hate to say it, but literally pulling up at the gym thinking you will get out of this car. You're shattered, you're tired, you're now really grumpy. Yeah. But I do always I'm guaranteed to leave the gym feeling more energized. And I think, gosh, if I'd have only done that earlier, I could have actually maybe worked late into the evening when I thought I was actually, completely finished. Or, I'd have a lot more energy for maybe an evening lunch with my horse. And it is that feeling of thinking you've got to hold on to the fact that you will leave the gym feeling a lot better than you arrived. What is it, Nikki, about a workout that sort of lifts your mood?
Well, it's in a release of endorphins. We move our body and endorphins are released. We feel that dopamine come out, and it's everything from, like, we move our body. It doesn't just stop at, oh, I feel better afterwards. It's that whole effect of, like, you sleep better later on. It might be that because you've worked out, you've gone and you've got this feeling of self-respect about yourself that day. You did something for you. So therefore, you're not just going to work out and then just go back to, old habits. You might actually go, no, I will have a balanced lunch. I am actually going to make a bit more effort today where I'm going to get some protein in there. I'm going to make sure I've got my veggies and stuff like that. And I'm going to make sure that I fuel myself properly after that session I've done. So it then feeds into how you fuel your body. How you fuel your body, and the fact that you moved your body that day probably means you're going to have a better quality sleep. You might drink more water during that day because you've worked out and you've just got that. You took your bottle into the gym, and that bottle now is in the car with you for the day. And therefore you've been sipping on that bottle of water all day long. And then the next day you wake up and you might just feel a little bit more like you've got a bit of smugness about you because actually you did your workout yesterday. And that means that it might be that you kind of go, oh, I did it. And actually, I looked after myself yesterday, and you've woken up fresher after a good night's sleep. And you might then choose a better breakfast because you woke up 15 minutes earlier than usual because you did go to bed early. And it's like this whole, it doesn't just stop at I worked out. It keeps going throughout the day. It might be the amount of times I have been, me or my husband Sam have been like, can you go and work out please because you're being miserable? And then the person goes and they might be like at the beginning, me. And then afterwards I'll come back and be like, sorry, sorry about that. But it's true. It completely transforms a mood, and it can help you speak to your colleagues better, your kids better. Like, it might mean that you actually, when you go and visit your horses later that day, you're a bit calmer, a bit more content, less manic.
Yeah, you're
It's
actually
just,
bringing a nicer
yeah,
energy to your horses.
yeah,
How often do
100%.
we all think, "Oh, yeah, we need to be much more,
Mhm.
kind and polite to our colleagues or our boyfriend or our girlfriend or whoever it might be," but
Yeah,
actually our horses need us to be calmer and kinder at the gate each night. So instead of taking all of our work
definitely.
stresses and lamping it on them and sort of bringing
Yes.
that energy to their door, it can make us a
Yeah.
nicer person in that respect. It does get out any kind of pent up tension, doesn't it?
Yeah, like I said, it genuinely feels like it's that whole feeling of like I have a plug on my forehead that I, pop open, I pour my head out, all the foggy, rubbishy, dirty griminess comes out, and I put that plug back on and I'm like, oh, that feels so much better. Oh, that's the only way I can describe it. And I mean, I'm not saying I massively struggle with my mental health or anything like that, but I have definitely struggled a lot with my anxiety and stuff over the years. I've got a very manic head, very like I'm quite, I don't like to label it, but I'm quite good at like procrastinating and like making things worse for myself.
Yeah.
We've all been there. But like a workout really sets me up far better to just get on with my priorities for that day. Like I'm not waiting around to complete that task that I'm dreading. I'm getting it done because I'm respecting myself today and I'm getting shit done. And it's just a sign of self-respect and that will build up so much over time. And then in no time, you're going to be turning up to your horse, putting on your boots and chaps and hat, and just looking forward to getting on your horse more with more confidence. If I don't know, if maybe if your horse is a little bit naughtier, it might be that you actually kind of get on them and think, no, I'm the boss here. It's just that aura of I've got this. That's, I think, what speaks louder than anything.
Mm. And it's so interesting what you say about mental health because whether someone suffers with a mental health condition or not, we all have mental health, don't we? We all have to look
Yeah.
after our mental health, whether it be
Mhm.
overthinking or anxiety or just stress that we're dealing with life, or
Mhm.
some people might have PTSD from something they've
Yeah.
experienced. And it goes without saying that working out our
Mhm.
bodies feeds into our mind, and that's often the last thing that we
Absolutely.
think about because we're all so focused on looking in the mirror and how we look in our clothes.
Yeah, it really is something I have to talk with people about again and again. I work with women most of the time. It's I've just gone down that route and it's something that I love to do because I think that women in particular are just, how many years has it been rammed down our throat that it's all to do with how we look. Our
Mm.
whole being is how we look.
Yeah,
And I think that that is just like, oh, it's just boring, isn't it?
yeah.
Like to go about your whole life just thinking, what do I look like? I just don't think that it's a good goal to set. And I understand that there's a lot of people out there who might be massively struggling with their weight and it's becoming like an actual health issue and they need to sort it out. They need to take action of that. And I get that. And in that respect, I totally understand it. But there still needs to be performance goals because without performance goals, it's just so boring. Working towards looking better is the hardest thing ever because it's a very slow process. You don't see results quickly. And that's why people give up in their fitness journeys so quickly because they're like, "Oh, nothing's changing in the mirror. Like, what am I doing wrong? I'm crap. I'm a failure. I'm just going to give up. Forget it. It just doesn't work for me, And it's like, no, it does. It works for everybody. Putting your health and fitness first is or just your health in general is really important to you and those people around you. It's so important to look after yourself. So I think it is trying to look beyond that mirror. And I grew up around, like, I've got much older sisters and my mum, and they were always very much like saying to me, I'm younger by a long, long way. I'm the baby of the family. And they would always kind of say to me, don't you be like us, don't get like us, or my sister would often try and encourage me to like go and get on the dance floor and dance and not get embarrassed about these things and everything, because I think they were always aware that they always felt that way. They always felt embarrassed or insecure because, again, like my sister, she grew up in the 90s where I don't need I say more. It
Exactly.
was just
Yeah.
the goal of what to look like was near impossible for a lot of people. Like, I
Mm.
don't even have that bone structure. Like, I'm a 5'10" woman and I've got a solid bone structure, or I'm a strong and athletic person.
And in
And
the
like,
90s, it was like you had to be a skeleton, wasn't it? It was all
exactly.
thin women.
Yeah. I mean, the goal was often looking like you were on heroin. I mean, what a what a goal. Like, oh. And I think that there's always these trends, but we've got to drop them, because it's so unhealthy to just be working towards and moving your body for that reason. It's just very toxic mindset, and we want to be focusing on moving our body for us in the long term and for our head in the short term. And we want to be thinking about what kind of life we want to live ahead of us. Is it one where we're underfueled and our bones go brittle and we end up falling over and hurting ourselves, or is it one where we're fueling ourselves and we're moving our body because we respect our body, we love ourselves? And I always say this as well, like, it doesn't have to be that you love yourself. I know there's a lot of people out there which think, crikey, I'm a long way off loving myself. It's a complicated place, but if you can respect yourself, that's the important bit. And one day maybe you will love yourself. And also with these performance goals, you will one day look in the mirror and probably go, damn, that bum is looking quite good. And that's when you'll have those little moments of, oh, look at me. But a lot of the time I always say, I don't think bodies change that much. I think it's our mindset that changes. And that person we look at in the mirror is different mentally, feeling different mentally. And that's why we're looking at ourselves in a whole different way. I mean, one to the next, our hormones can be like, you look crap. And then the next day it's like, oh, senorita. Like, so we are
that is my mind from one week to the next.
Yeah. One week I'm thinking, oh God, I hate those leggings. The next week, oh, my bum looks nice in these. What are the honestly? But it's just the wave we have to ride, and exercise again massively helps the hormones. But anyway, I'll stop that tangent.
It's really interesting. And early in our conversation, Nikki, you mentioned that equestrian women and girls in general are much more critical of themselves in the mirror and focused on what they look like. Why do you think that is?
It's funny, isn't it? Because I think that a lot of people get the opinion that they wouldn't be as fussed as what they look like, because they're not particularly, well, I know a lot of the time they're not necessarily the most girly, feminine characters. They might be very much like mud under their fingernails and not, scrape their hair up.
Podcast, Nikki, I'm always like, when I bring my hand up, I think, oh my gosh, I've just done the horses and my nails full of mud and horsehair, and because I'm literally straight from the stable.
It's always the way in. Like, I mean, how many times have I just ended up, I had my friend over for dinner the other night and I'd ridden my sister's horse, and I got back and I was like, can't really be bothered to like get changed and try and do everything. I've got not enough time. So I just rocked my like leggings and my like long sunflower socks over the top of them. I must have looked like a proper state. She's not horsey at all. I was like, I'm really sorry. I smell like citronella from the fly spray that I doused all over myself. And she was like, oh, I quite like it actually. But it's like, I think people get the opinion of, they don't care. They've always got poo on them somewhere. But it's not that. I think it's like, I suppose you look at the top people in the equestrian, sport. They're often quite petite. They're often they sit all neatly on their horse, and I think that they are amazing role models. But at the same time, it means that people that are just doing it as a hobby get really critical of themselves. And I suppose it's just like, if you took a different sport, let's say running, long distance running, somebody, maybe you look at all the different body types doing the London Marathon. There's all sorts of people. Some people are even walking it, and they're still raising money and they're doing their thing to complete their goal. But when it comes to, in the equestrian world, it's almost as if there's this like block of, but I don't look like that, so therefore I'm never gonna, even if I do bring home a first rosette, like, am I still good? No, it's my horse that did all the work. My horse did all the work. And I know that we have to give them all the credit because they're the amazing ones. But is there any chance that maybe it could be a little bit of you actually being a bit awesome? And is it worth putting the effort in for you and maybe going and having a nice sports massage here and there because your horse gets, to a month?
I know. Don't get me started on this, Nikki.
Exactly. And actually, can we maybe just accept that different body types can still, there's so many different body types, and all of those different body types can be fit and healthy and worthy to get on a horse and not be criticized every time you see yourself in a picture on your horse. Actually, you look perfectly fine, and you and your horse are a great partnership together. And yeah, so many clients I talk to about this, and it often is a block. They see an image of themselves and they're like, oh, and it's because they didn't imagine themselves looking like that when they were in the moment, when they were thinking, oh, that was a great test today. I felt like I smashed it. Oh my God, I think I'm actually going to get my highest, score yet or whatever. And then it's like, then they look at a picture and then they go, oh, I look horrible. Completely
It
ripped
does.
themselves. May as well just chuck away the good result
It
and
really
actually
does.
just, and it's like, but you just said you felt fantastic afterwards. And now you're focusing on this image of yourself going, oh, I look shit. Well, come on. There's more to it. It's about the performance of you and your horse together, isn't it? And that's why think of how good you feel when you've come out the other side of an amazing day out eventing, or just even a really jolly hack. Like, how good do you feel in yourself? And then just think that must be more important, that feeling, to work towards, as in working out and looking after your body, than looking in the mirror. Because it's very rare that we're going to look in the mirror and think every single day, oh God, what an absolute piece, It's very rare. So
That's
let's
not
focus on the
part of being
feeling.
human, is it? I don't think anyone can
Yeah.
feel like that for a sustained period of
No.
time. No.
Exactly. And and like I said, if you're looking at yourself in the mirror and you're having a mentally positive day, you're feeling good, you're probably going to see quite a sexy minx looking back at you. And then if you're having a bit of a shit day, you're probably going to look in the mirror and see not what you want to see in the mirror, because your brain just likes to sabotage with you in that way. And that's why focusing on how you feel is so much more important as a goal when it comes to moving your body, because it like, how do you want to feel good today? Right, go move your body then. And yeah, it's like a topic where I could just talk about it for so long, but
You hit the nail on the head as well,
yeah.
Nikki, when you mentioned the criticism, because the equestrian
Mhm.
industry, wherever you fit into that, whether you are someone who owns a horse or rides at a riding school, or whether you
Mhm.
compete, it's an industry with a lot of outside noise, isn't it? So we have our
Mm.
instructors or our coaches, someone who is sort of coaching us to be better in the saddle. We also have, if we
Yeah.
attend lessons, we have the rest of the class, we have the audience that are
Mhm.
watching. If you're competing, you've got the other competitors in the class and all their family watching. And actually,
Mm.
sometimes that can be a negative space. And I think it deserves to be
Mhm.
acknowledged, with people commenting on
Mm.
what the riders look like, on what the handlers look
Yeah.
like, on what the horses
Yeah.
look like. And it's
Oh,
very difficult
definitely.
to block out, isn't it?
Yeah, I think, well, put it like this. If I was doing a PT session or a coaching session with somebody, I would be watching them move. Let's say they're doing a squat, and it might be that I watch them do the squat initially. I think, oh, this could do with some work. But I'm never going to give them negative feedback. I'm never going to say, that was wrong, that's crap. I'm going to say, try this, try that. What about if we put some some plates under your heels? That might help you. Oh, yeah, that looks so much better. Amazing. Right, now we're going to just try and push your bum back a bit more. And it's like I give them like positive reinforcement and then like encourage them to change little tweaks that builds up into a much better movement. But so much of the time, like, you see people working or like having lessons and they've got their horse, and it's no, that's wrong. No, you need stop. You need to try this time, because what you're doing is you're pulling them, and it's like it's always a
A
negative
negative
feedback. So
train of
that's,
thought, isn't it? And also often
yeah,
projected in quite an abrasive voice. So like, how often do we hear, leg on,
yeah,
stop that horse. And it's all in that,
yeah.
and you're absorbing that,
Yeah.
aren't you, as the rider or as the owner? And you take it on
Exactly, and I think
board.
it sinks in as like a, "Oh, well, I just failed them." But actually, there was probably lots of good bits during that lesson or whatever, but you're probably not hearing much in the way of good, yes, because that has happened because you're doing this and that and the other. Because you're working with this big animal underneath you, which is a little bit, you can't guarantee what's going to happen at any time. So of course, there's always going to have to be that negative way of explaining things. Sometimes you have to criticize, don't you? Because you can't control what's underneath you otherwise. But I think that I'm not saying that the way that it's taught is wrong, not at all, but it's just something to be aware of, that it's if you're in a sport, there's always going to be negative bits about it. So you've got to set yourself up to be able to take on that and not kind of go, because of my performance that happened, I'm crap. No, it's something to work on. And it's something that is, again, you could then take that information and use that as a bit of motivation to move your body, to be more mobile. Oh, that he said about that, and actually I need to be doing this, or I need more independent limbs, like when it comes to my left, whatever. It all builds up, and it can be used as a motivation to move your body more and look after your body more.
And it's interesting because I'm also referencing the audience, the families that watch either a riding lesson or a competitive class, and maybe the negative feedback or chattering that you might hear, because people can be in the equestrian industry very judgmental. I had a friend talking to me the other day about a class that she was in, and people were commenting on her weight from the side of the arena, not knowing that her family was standing next to them and filming. So she heard the whole replay on the video when she got out of the class, which was absolutely appalling. A friend of mine is an incredible horsewoman and trainer and therapist, a horse therapist. And it's just to be, but I was absolutely gobsmacked that it is still going on right now. And I guess, how do we block out negative chatter that we might hear from the arena side, from the show audience, wherever we might be?
I mean, it's always going to hit, isn't it? Because no doubt that might be an insecurity of that person's already. And then somebody's gone and confirmed that, and just, oh, goodness me, she must have felt so rubbish. And like, I hope she's okay, and not taking that on and living with that in the background all the time. Because what we've got to think about is anything from somebody stepping into a gym for the first time that's overweight and they don't know what they're doing with the equipment and all the rest of it, all the way to somebody that is on a horse and maybe they don't feel the most confident because they do feel like, oh, maybe, I'm thinking of the thoughts that sometimes will go through my clients' heads. Oh, am I too heavy for them? Am I doing them? All these different things. But what we've got to focus on is that you've got to concentrate on how you feel on that. Even if you're, how can I put it? If you're going into a gym and there's all these people around you which are like ripped and the real male dominant environment or whatever, just like in a horsey environment, it might be a very like, what, like it might be a bit of a, just a negative, toxic space. And it could feel quite unwelcoming to that person walking into the gym. I think what you've got to remember, though, is that if there's anybody there with an opinion on you, it's them. It's a them problem, 100%. Like, I won't ever look at somebody running when I'm driving past them and they're like, somebody's running on the street and they might be a little bit overweight, or maybe they're running a bit funny, like they've got a bit of a funny run. And
I can't run.
Oh, exactly. And like,
I can't even, Nikki, I can't even run on the treadmill. The other day, my brother died in the gym because I was upping the treadmill, and I freak out because it all stems back to when I was running and I had the Lion King soundtrack in my headset, in my headphones. And then the song changed to some absurd like Lion King fight scene. So then my movement changed to match the music, and it didn't match the treadmill, and I nearly fell off backwards. And I've got this scared, like this horror that it will happen again and I'll fall off.
Oh, I can't listen to music when I run because the music changes my pace so much. I have to be like, okay, Nikki, calm down.
But that's like, me. When you talk about someone with a funny run down the road, down the field, in the gym, it's me. I cannot run.
Yeah. But I think the thing is, it's like, you could make a comment about that person. The amount of times I've been in the car with somebody, I don't know, that's a bit older or has a bit of an older mindset, whatever, and they've been like made a comment, and I'm like, well, you're not running, are you? Like, you're not exactly a vision of fitness. And that's what I want to say to the person next to me, because I'm thinking mean. And it's just like, it's this need to judge people and need to say something negative about somebody else. And I think if you were to flip the mirror on them, they'd feel utterly crap in their own body, however small they are. They could be a really petite little person that's a body to, to, in quotation mark, to die for, but like, if they're making negative comments about somebody, they're obviously insecure themselves, aren't they? So they're just spilling their toxic comments onto somebody else. If that person in that saddle, in that moment, or in that gym walking in, felt like they were doing something for them and they were doing something towards their journey, well, they're doing more than sitting on the sidelines making negative comments about the person in front of them. So
You get in the
more
show
for them,
ring,
really.
you get in the
Yeah,
arena. Let's
yeah.
see you with
Come
the
on then,
horse.
you do it.
Yeah.
Exactly. And everybody's got their own little personal journey that nobody knows about. And I think that's the really important thing, which is why anybody that makes a negative comment about somebody, on YouTube or like Instagram Reels or something, there might be somebody posting their journey or whatever of them gradually getting into the gym or whatever. And it could be the same with horse riding, being a beginner or something. And it's a really vulnerable place to be. Like, being a beginner, it's can be quite hard on your ego, can't it? Because a lot of the time you're getting things wrong. But that is being a beginner. That is learning. But the point is, that person's taking steps towards something that they like doing and working on themselves. And that's an applaud from me.
That's so true.
And
it's something, Nikki, that I have to remember as well, because I hate being new at things. And I think it's because you get to a stage and you've done your schooling, or you've done college or uni or whatever you've done, you're in your career, and it's been a long time since you've been new at anything. And it's quite scary. And I have to humble myself sometimes and think, do you know what? I'm probably going to look ridiculous trying this in the gym, or, I'm going to look like a beginner, but it's okay. Because my ego will start to be like, but you need to look great, or you need to look in control, or in the best, you need to look great. No, actually, it's about humbling yourself and thinking it's okay to mess up, to get it wrong, and to go back to basics.
Absolutely. And that's literally why, like, on my Nikki T app that I've created, not to be like a plugger, but I'm just, putting it out there. I literally have created things that are there so beginners can have a very gradual, like, quiet, steady approach into it. Because I mean, I have like, not dissing him or anything like that, but like, you've got your everything from your Joe Wicks YouTube workouts all the way down to like some bodybuilding program or whatever. They're all quite full on. Like, right, we're going to do some squats in your living room now. What if you don't know what a squat looks like? What if you actually don't know how it looks? And then that person goes, all you've got to do is go up and down like this. There's more to it than that. And actually, like, somebody that can already squat will say a squat's easy. Somebody that I know how to squat and I can squat very well, but I teach people how to squat as well. I can tell you now, it doesn't come like simply to a lot of people. Like, a lot of the time, it takes quite a lot of an explanation. It might be that they have a bunion on their foot and it actually affects the way that their knee performs during that squat. It sometimes like caves in. So we have to think about, should we put a band around your knees, or should we make a little prompt to make sure that you're pushing your knees out as you're driving up? Oh, look, you can feel those muscles on the side of your hips for the first time because of this, that, the other. There's so many things to consider. So in my programs that I like, Baseline is my beginner program in my app, and it's 16 weeks long, so it's a little bit longer. Like, it's the whole point I was making was double the length of a standard program, which is often about 6 to 8 weeks. So you've got that chance to really master it. Every 4 weeks the workouts change, so like you've got a lot of time to really practice and nail it. So it gives you that chance to make errors, and I'm there in the background with videos explaining what to do. If you feel like this, you can try this. And there's lots of options. And if they're still stuck, anybody on my app that's a member can just send me over a video and be like, Coach, what's going wrong here? And obviously I'll happily explain. So yeah, I think it's bloody amazing to be a beginner, because you you're doing something for you and you're working on yourself. And if you're never a beginner in life, well, you're not going to get far, really, are you? You know, like, what are you going to do with your life if you're never a beginner sometimes?
Nikki, I'm
I guess.
intrigued to know, earlier on in our chat, you talked about your fitness journey and your interest and passion for fitness came from a place of wanting to be strong and wanting to be fit physically and mentally, not necessarily looking at improving the person in the mirror, that comes part and parcel. How have you coped in what is, if we generalize, a superficial industry for a PT where it is very based on the visuals and the results and the muscles and what is in the mirror? How have you coped with the stresses of that and the pressures, I should
I think
say?
the best way to describe it, I think, is I'm very stubborn. Like, I will not go down that route of like, oh, how can I describe it? Like, I just refuse to. I don't. It's a difficult topic to like talk about, but like, I'm not saying that people shouldn't post pictures of their body, but a lot of the time people sell with their body, and nobody is kind of transparent about the fact that their body could be quite genetically made up, where they've actually stored very little fat around their stomach and a lot of fat on their bum, and actually they've got like the 2020 butt that everybody wanted. And then they like make content on that and post it on Instagram where they flex their abs and then show their bum, and then the next clip is like the food they're eating, and then there's some 12-year-old out there watching that thinking, oh, I need to be making that whatever for my breakfast to look like her. Well, that's not the case at all. Because just like, me and one of my best friends who is like, what, 5'5" or whatever, and she's got like gorgeous hips that go out and she's got an amazing figure. Well, I'm not like that. I've got really narrow hips and I'm very like athletic with my like broad shoulders and everything. And I've had to, as I've grown up, own that. But my makeup and my body had means that when I was in school, I did kind of do my athletics, and I was a really fast runner, and I did do hurdles for the first time ever and was county champ, and like all these awesome things that I got to do because I am who I am and I'm in the body that I'm in. And I think that, like, yes, okay, there's going to be times where I'm showing my body on the internet just because I'm blooming hot and sweaty from doing a workout or whatever. But like, I always want to make sure that people know that it's not about, I know I don't want to sound like an annoying, but like, it's not about looking like me. I'm not saying that I'm the desired what to look like, but it's not that. It's about the bigger picture. I want to make sure that anybody coming into my world, onto my Instagram page, wherever they found me, they're not pressing the follow button because they're like, oh, nice bum. Oh, nice. Oh, I want that. I'm going to do her program, which, let's face it, that's what a lot of the online space is like when it comes to fitness. They're coming into my world because they see a positive, uplifting space where they feel comfortable enough, like I said, to be a beginner, to ask me questions that maybe are a little bit personal. Like, I get people coming to me a lot saying things like, hi Nikki, like, I heard you use natural cycles to track your cycle, like, I'm looking into it because XYZ. And I'm like, yeah, come to me. I want to be that person that people know nothing's TMI, and actually bring me the action. I want everything. Like, come to me. I don't just want to be a like, yeah, a bum of some abs. I that's not my interest. I want to change lives. I don't just want to be this thing where people go, oh my god, you look amazing.
And
It's
it
just,
is so true, though, because behind
yeah.
all of those photos and videos that we see going viral on Instagram or, getting loads of likes and shares, there is a body, particularly if it's a female one, that's going through loads of hormonal changes. And, week by week, we
Absolutely.
feel and need different things in our cycle. And yet no one talks about that. You're supposed to look like this perfect image online or in the gym or at work. You can't show that actually you're in pain or you
No,
feel bloated or you feel really
no.
lethargic.
And some of the bodies that people look up to as well are actually very unhealthy bodies. Like, for example, when in lockdown, when I was doing more live workouts and I just literally was experimenting with so many different ways, posting content, la 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 la. It was all really exciting. And I think I maybe was moving more because we had more spare time. So I was outside, the weather was fantastic. And I was also, I mean, how old was I? I'm 26 now. So I don't know, 20, in my early 20s, so like very early 20s. And I did looking back on the pictures, I'm like, blimmin' hell, you were lean. Like I was very, very lean. And I'd lost my period at that point. I didn't have my period. It had gone. Woohoo. I had really bad acne. And I think my body was just very inflamed. It was very stressed. Everything was new. I was probably doing workouts that were a bit too intense for me. And it was just not a good time. I don't think I was necessarily like, it was a great time. At the same time, like I was struggling with those things. So it's a really good example, to be honest, isn't it? Of that whole like behind closed doors, you don't
You
always
don't
know.
know.
And I was like trying to get onto like, I remember my mum said at the time, she's like, oh, I think you're still on our health insurance. And I was like, am I? And like she said, yeah, because it's been bugger all because you were under 25. And I remember having like a consultation with the like insurance company saying like, look, this is my acne. And she said to me, she was like, yes, I can see it's quite severe. And I was just like somebody confirming that with me. And it's like I wasn't in a, yes, I was a healthy person, but like really, was I that healthy if I'd lost my period and all these things? And the amount of women out there that have got these visible abs and they don't have a period, they don't have anything.
And no one
And I'm
tells
sorry,
you that.
we need that.
Doctors don't, nurses
No,
don't, teachers at school don't. I only know
exactly.
because my mum told me from when she was younger that it's a thing that if you
Mhm.
get too lean, you lose your
Yeah,
period. And it's like, wow, that
yeah,
is your body actually telling you this is not right for you.
definitely.
This is not the right weight for
No.
you and for your body to function. So that, we should all
Mhm.
take as a warning, shouldn't we? And yet we
Mhm.
don't see
Yeah,
it
you just
on
never
these
know.
videos on Instagram.
No. No, you never know. And there could be these like, people, you know what I mean? It's that whole like reel or TikTok where they like flex their body and then it clips into them in the gym doing this, that, and the other, or they got their leggings like halfway pulled down. And it's just weird. It's just a weird, weird place, isn't it? And I
And it's
just
a
think
very
that
judgmental space. We've been talking about the real world
definitely.
judgment at the arena side in lessons or in the show ring,
Mhm.
but actually now when you post a picture of you and your horse or a riding video, then the trolls come in on that as well and want to correct the way you're
Mhm.
sitting, the way you're riding, the way you're moving, and then we'll look at what you look like and your horse.
I
And
know.
isn't it horrendous that it's now an open forum for people to express their own insecurities and load them on
Exactly.
us, on everyone.
And I always say as well, like on my platform, I've never actually had any like barely any hate. Like it's been, and I don't have a huge following or anything like that. But do you know what? I'd pick that smaller following and that nice, lovely community of people over me going, oh, look at this, look at me flexing, doing this, and that, and the other, and it being like this space that blows up and like there's actually just lots of people on there that are like dead, that sounds awful, but like dead followers where you don't get to make an impact in their life, they're not interacting with you. I like my little close-knit community where I know so many of the people in there, like I know them, I can recognize names. I'm like, you used to do my classes in lockdown, you used to do, and it's I just love it. It's such a nice little space. So that's kind of, I suppose, going back to your original question, like it's just the stubbornness of being like, I will not go down that route. I've also always said, like, I will never post transformation pictures of my clients or anything. I've never asked for a picture of my clients in their bra and pants, and I never will because it's just not needed. And I could make more money by going, this is her before and hit this is her after, but it's not me. It's what they feel from their side of the Zoom call, which counts to me,
And it's so interesting what you say as well about your passion for feeling and looking strong. And I'm wondering if this is a theme within the equestrian community and the rural community as well. Because for me, growing up, like you, I was encouraged not to look at what I look like, to be me. If I wanted to go and roll in the mud, have one welly boot on, one trainer, I've got chicken under each arm, horses and sheep running around, obsessed with ponies, but also along with that lifestyle from a fairly young age, lifting hay, giving out hay,
Mm-hmm.
moving hay bales, mucking out. So building a core strength. And I realized that as a teenager and growing up, I used to be incredibly proud and still am of how naturally strong I am. And wonder if that links to who I am in the country space with my animals and the fact that I see strength as enabling me to care for my horses properly and be able to do all of the chores that go along with that. And I wonder if you see
Yeah.
that with the clients you look after, that there's a need and also a pride in feeling strong with our animals.
Oh, 100%. I think that like it's that how can I put it? I think the countryside makes stubborn kids that grow up to be stubborn adults that are like, I mean, how many times have you come across like a man that'll go, "Oh, I'll do that for you,
Oh,
love," and I'm
no,
like,
don't. And
absolutely
they come
freaking
out with
not.
the feed bags you've ordered. I'm like, "I'll take them." And they're like, "Oh, no." The other day I had, "Oh, no, I wouldn't do it to you, love." And I said, "Hand them over, like, I'll chuck, like, 3 on each shoulder and I'll show you." And it does, it
Yeah.
makes you more determined, doesn't it?
Yeah. 100%. And like, I mean, like we always laugh that like my dad has no chance like when it comes to making any comment about like something to do with like a female not being capable of doing like he the speed we jump down his throat about something like that, there's no chance. So he's very good at that type of thing, especially like for, I mean, he's a little bit of an older dad. He's 73 or something like that. So like it makes us laugh because yeah, there's just no chance. And when there is men that will say, "Oh, I'll do that for you, darling," or whatever. Like you get the proper Cornish
Oh,
characters
yeah.
down here. "Oh no, darling, I'll do that for you." And he looks at me and he giggles because he looks at me with this like sense of like you're a lot stronger than he thinks you are.
Yeah.
And then and sometimes you see their faces.
Yeah,
Oh
it's the
Christ!
reaction afterwards as well, isn't
Yeah,
it? That it's always in the face or it's like, "Oh, God blimey," sort of thing, like, as if
I
it's
know.
so unexpected. It's like, oh,
Exactly. But it's definitely like it definitely comes with a stubbornness and a pride, yeah, to be stronger and everything. And I but in the same breath, I do also think that there's a little bit of a side where in the that kind of country environment, it's very sometimes you don't always get the chance as well to actually have weak moments and like feel mentally a bit down and everything. And it's quite how can I put it? Like to be a bit theatrical or be a bit different. Sometimes it's a little bit of a weird space to be in as well. And that's something I've had to kind of get over is the fact that I'm sharing my stuff online and all of this. And I remember when I was younger, I'd like see somebody local follow me and I'd be
Oh,
like,
no.
"Oh God." And then actually like I have now I'm like, follow me. I don't care. Like this is me or whatever. But yeah, I think there's two sides of it. There's definitely like a proud, like strong side, stubborn side, where it's like, but also that side where you probably there's a lot of people I know that would be secretly working out and making a difference in their life, but they're not going to shout about it. They're not going to be posting about the fact they've gone to the gym or whatever because it's a little bit embarrassing and don't need to be talking about that. Bit like that, you
Yeah, I
know?
know exactly what you mean. Nikki, thank you so much for sharing so much of your wisdom. I'm feeling inspired just listening to you and knowing that actually we all need a Nikki in our ear on those mornings where we're feeling like, oh, I can't do it,
Yeah.
or I feel this way, or I'm too tired. We need Nikki in
Mhm.
our ear to cheer us on, particularly when we're not
On the,
feeling quite right or when we think, oh, I'm not
yeah.
looking so good. We need Nikki and her motivational words. Before we go, I also just had to share this with you. When we were talking earlier about how do we find that word that you hate to use on motivation, because obviously
Mhm.
motivation comes and goes. It's like a bit of a flux, isn't it? But when I feel like, oh, I just can't do it today, I just think of my horse who's a bit of a live wire and she can be totally calm and serene and kind and lovely and sweet. And then she'll have an explosion. And there was one
Mhm.
moment last summer where she was on the lunge and I thought, I'll just lunge her in a head collar, clip on the lunge line. She'll be fine. She was doing a beautiful trot. We were doing some pole work. And then that was it. She lost her head. She got so excited by what she could see laid out in front of her because she loves to jump. She decided she'd jump them all at like 3 foot high, even though they're on the ground. Then went into a full bronc, into a bolt. I'm skiing on the end of the lunge line with no bit or bridle to aid me, sort of careering round. I managed to hold on to her for 5 minutes. Then she snapped the metal of the lunge line and just galloped into the distance. And I thought, Anna, this is the reason you need to stay strong. This is the reason you have to be
Definitely.
physically strong, not for you, not for what you look like, but for your horse.
Yeah.
And that's what
Yeah.
keeps me going.
Stay strong for the unpredictability of those naughty little ponies sometimes, hey?
That just want to explode and express themselves and say, look
Yeah,
at
or like
me.
lightning. Yeah, like Lightning, my sister's horse, who like I finish up a ride and every time he proper tries to mug me off for like itching
Oh,
against me.
yes.
And the force I go back on, I'm like, get off. because he hurts. Like, it
They'll
really
push you
hurts.
over. They'll push you over.
Yeah, totally. And I'm like, have to really like make a like strong stance and like be like, no, because yeah, otherwise I'm gone. And yeah, I always think at those moments as well, I have to like stand strong and be like, absolutely not, push him away. And I think if I didn't have that force available through my arm, what would happen?
Exactly, in that robust stance. I mean, for those listening who might be a bit unsure about how they can start their fitness journey, I think between us, we've given so many reasons why, as equestrians, we need to be strong, don't we? You know, for our safety, for our fitness in the saddle, to keep us mobile around the yard. Thank you so much for listening to and watching Curious Equestrian. If you enjoyed this episode, please don't forget to subscribe to us on YouTube so that you don't miss an episode and all that's coming your way, or you can subscribe to us on whatever podcast platform you listen. If you could leave us a review on Apple Podcasts, that would really help us to find lots more lovely listeners. And you can also follow us on Instagram @Curious Equestrian Podcast. We'll see you next time.